Hi guys, it's me, Sam from the Unity of Life, and today we're going to be talking about the Drive to Survive episode 8 of season 1 of the Netflix TV series. So don't forget, this is all the way back in 2018. So this episode is actually quite a sad episode, and it reminded a lot of people just how dangerous that this sport can actually be. It's was quite sad. So it started off talking about death. There had been quite a few deaths in F1. It's not something that happens a lot now. It does still happen, but not to an extent that it did once, because there's a lot of safety precautions in place now. And one of the things that this episode did do was talk about the next generation and how hopefully, with all these safety precautions, they have a less chance of these fatal crashes. Because it is still a pretty dangerous sport, even though there is these safety precautions. Later on, I don't know if this episode, if it's a little bit later on in the TV series, but there was a Formula 2 driver who had a fatal crash, and I believe he was only about 21 when he died, and that took a lot of the drivers by shock, and they it really took stock of the fact that that what they're doing is quite dangerous, and unfortunately these things do still happen, and we've already mentioned in 2020 that Grosjean had this horrific car accident where he was on fire. Well, the car was. Nobody thought that he was going to make it out alive, because he was that bad, and he was really good that he actually did. I actually saw that crash and myself when it happened, and I couldn't believe that he had made it out alive, and he thought he was really extremely lucky to still be here today. Because that's something else that we do forget about these drivers, is that they are somebody's child, they are somebody's partner, they are potentially a parent themselves. They have a family, they have friends, they have a life outside the sport, and there's a lot of people that are going to be severely impacted if they do die, especially in a horrific, horrible way. So there was one driver, I believe his name is Charles, my handwriting's terrible, back in F1, F2, when he was racing for that, he actually decided he was going to still be racing 48 hours after his father had died. And he had to start at the back of the race, but he did win that race, which is that's a lot, isn't it, when you think about that, because when you lose somebody and you still go to work or you go to school or whatever, the day after, it's pretty insane, especially a parental figure. They died and he racing 48 hours later, and he actually won the race from starting right at the very back and being pretty much last. That's pretty impressive. Some of the drivers, they do seem to forget about the dangers of driving and racing around and driving at those insane speeds, because they're full of adrenaline when they're in the car, and they're not really thinking about it, they're not really processing it. And I don't think it's until something bad happens and a driver does lose their life during a race that when it hits them just how dangerous this sport really is. So as the season was coming into 2019 and coming to an end for 2018, Red Bull was looking for somebody to take Daniel God, sorry, that's me trying to butcher people's names, but they were trying to find a place for Daniel. Okay, they wanted someone to take his seat, and they looked at Pierre Gasly, who was only 22 at the time, and they wanted him to be promoted for Red Bull for 2019 series. And if anybody knows anything about what happened to poor Pierre in Red Bull during that 2019 race series, it didn't end very well for him. I know we're talking about death, but it's not that he died, but he did lose his seat. But we'll explore that in further detail in a future video. So Pierre and Charles, so the guy that I talked about, who started right at the end of the race at the back and won that race 48 hours after the death of his father, they were friends. Which they were very close friends, which apparently according to what had been said in this episode, is very rare for something like that to occur in this particular sport, because you're always racing against people and there's always people out to stab you in the back, because people are going to get jealous of other people's success because it is not their own. So it then occurred that earlier on we did say that some teams didn't want to take a chance on these young upcoming talent because they wanted to stay with who they were familiar with and who they knew they were going to get points with. But that all changed, and the bigger teams were then decided that they were going to take chances on much younger drivers that were in the F2. So I mentioned how Grosjean, he had suffered through his mental health with really bad crashes, and he lost a lot of confidence, and it's something that happens to all the drivers. They can lose a little bit of confidence if they've had a really bad crash, or they just keep crashing for some reason. Actually, for some reason they do keep crashing, whether it's car issues or whether it's because they were trying to show off or whatever. If this keeps happening, it does take a hit, and they do lose a lot of their confidence that they do have. And like we keep saying, there's a lot of pressure actually on the drivers when it becomes to the race. However, there's a lot of pressure that goes on off the track for the drivers as well when they're trying to find their seat, trying to get a seat, trying to get into that next racing season, because there is only 20 of you, there's only 20 spaces, and if you can't find a seat, you're not going to be driving, okay? And that kind of sucks. So Charles, who I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name, he actually drives for Ferrari still, and did back in 2019, because he was going to be driving for the 19, and he was the second youngest driver for Ferrari, and it was a dream come true for him because Ferrari is one of the biggest teams, and it's an ultimate goal for quite a lot of F1 drivers to drive for Ferrari. And so he was teammates with Sebastian Vettel, at least up until 2021, because things did change. So that's all I had on those notes. It was a bit of a sad episode, when you know the fact that they were talking about death and things that, you know, the positives that do come out of somebody dying, if there is some positives, and also some of the negatives, but it's all about getting back up and not really forgetting the person who has died, but just succeeding and making that person who's died proud of you, especially if it is a parental figure like it was with Charles. So I we'll see you in the next episode. Please don't forget to comment, share and subscribe. That would be great. And if you want to drop a comment in the comment section, feel free. And like I said, I'll see you next time. Bye.